I just gotta say, I realized that in the last episode we didn't talk about music or the score at all.
I was thinking about that. I listened to the episode yesterday and I was like, we didn't talk about music.
We didn't talk about music. It's like this is the only thing that we know about.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matt,
And I'm Zach.
and welcome to Watch No Evil.
Today we will be discussing the movie The Conjuring from 2013. This is a movie that is the story of the Perron family and the haunting of their family home. And it's also kind of the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, it's this kind of demonologist power couple. Is he like a licensed or ordained priest or?
According to the movie, he's the only non-Catholic demonologist recognized by the Catholic Church, but he is not a priest. Obviously, he couldn't be a priest because he's married to Lorraine.
So demonologist, do you know, is that like a actual designated role of the church?
It's sort of a specialization. It's an area of research, and back in the middle of the 20th century, and the high amount of superstition, a lot of medical issues that people would have, such as people with epilepsy that would have seizures, they would attribute that to some sort of demonic possession. And so, yeah, it was something that was really prominent, and it was a specialization of some priests to be demonologists for the church.
We should say, though, that this isn't like in an archaic, well, not archaic, but this isn't in a time where like they don't have medicine. Like events of this movie take place in, was it 1971?
1971, Rhode Island, yep.
Right. So it's not like they didn't have medicine. They do.
But if you look at the movie, it sort of starts to imply that was the case as well. With Ed and Lorraine Warren being sort of the people that were researching, the amount of hoaxes and things that they had to come up with logical explanations for, it sort of was weeding out the cases of publicity versus cases where they felt that there was a legitimate presence. Even
Right.
in the movie, there's the scene where the young couple are in the attic, and Ed and Lorraine Warren are up there, and he says, oh, this sound is being created by the waters in the pipe, causing the wood to start warping, rubbing against itself, and causing these sounds. So I think even then it was beginning to die out as being at all legitimate.
Right, not a case of the demons. I'm so glad that they had that scene in the movie. And we should say, like, this is a movie where I have seen it before. I've seen it many times, actually, and we both love this movie. It is critically acclaimed as far as the horror genre goes, and I think just it would be hard for anyone who likes a horror movie, likes the horror genre, to watch this movie and be like, not for me, just because it's kind of got anything you would really be looking for.
Yeah, I think, too, the necessity of that particular scene where they're debunking a possession or a demonic presence in the house actually adds gravity to their character, because it shows Ed and Lorraine Warren as people that are logical and that are right-minded and that are really trying to help. It sort of assuages the audience sense of skepticism, because them explaining to that couple, oh, it's not a demon, this is what's happening. It shows that they're not trying to prey on people. They really want you to know that demons are real, and there are cases where you might think that you have some sort of infestation, but that's not the case.
Right. And I'm like I said, I'm so glad that they included that, because this is based on a true story. Ed and Lorraine Warren were real people. They were actually demonologists. They did the jobs that they did in the movie. And it's actually, I don't know if you know this, the college that we both went to, Illinois Wesleyan University, Lorraine Warren actually did a guest lecture.
I didn't know that was her.
That was before 2013. So it was before The Conjuring. And so not as many people were aware of who she was, just because of kind of the success story of The Conjuring, kind of gave her a name for herself, even in her retirement. And Ed Warren, of course, is no longer with us, so he was not there with her. But it's just interesting that she was like there. That aside, they are real people, and It's just like good to see that kind of like realism, even with like the Hollywood dramatization of this story. So as we've already discussed, it's mostly about demonic possessions, and you do see some ghosts throughout the house, and it's mostly about the strife of this family, the house, and all the stuff that's going on with the demons and the demonologists that come in and try to help them out with the situation.
Okay, quick break though. This could be a potential tangent. Is it a demon?
Yeah, and I was doing some more reading right before I was waiting for you, and I was like, wait, I keep calling it a demon.
It suggests that it's a demon. The movie sort of makes it feel like it is a demon. The terminology they use for everything is demon adjacent, but Bathsheba, the spirit that is taking over, was a witch. So I don't know how much of the devil and demonness there is to it.
Okay, so I mean, like, in order to answer that question, you kind of have to know what is a demon, what is a spirit, and what's a ghost, and like how are we going to categorize all these things. I think they're all under the same umbrella in that they're spirits. I think spirits is a good way of putting it. Dead people, unrested souls is what you could maybe call them. I don't know.
Would you call a demon an unrested soul? Because to me, a demon is sort of hell-born.
Okay, so yeah, the demon implies an affiliation with the devil.
And I don't think that a demon was formerly a person, as Bathsheba was a living human person in this movie.
So the way that I interpreted it, and the way that they described it, Bathsheba being, well, actually really the only bad spirit in the house. She practiced witchcraft. She sacrificed her child for the devil. Basically, the devil said, "Hey, I want your child's soul." She goes, "Okay, I'll kill him," and practice some witchcraft in doing so. And then
the liberal agenda.
Of course. She's just exercising her liberal rights as an American. There are some sources that say that actually happened in the real case of this house, but for the purposes of this conversation, happened in the movie. Sacrificed her child, and then she proclaimed her love for the devil and hung herself from the tree out back.
And was pronounced dead at 3:07. That was my least favorite part.
Yeah, same, because they make a huge deal out of it, and they make it seem like, oh, there's going to be something meaningful that happens at 3:07 besides just her being at her most active.
And then the one time that you want her to be active, in the scene where they're all staying the night in the house, the deputy sheriff is there, and the guy who is working their electronics and stuff. It rolls over to 3:08. And the deputy sheriff's just like, I trust the clock.
So I actually liked that part, because that was like the first night that they all stayed there. And it implied that like Bathsheba knew what they wanted and what they were looking for. And she was like, I'm going to mess with them tonight. This will be the one night I don't stop the clocks at 3:07, so that these guys go away. They'll be like, oh, these people are crazy. Nothing's actually happening. And they'll have this moment of like, oh, 3:07, and nothing happens. So they'll leave me to do what I get to do, Other than that, it wasn't that meaningful.
it set up this idea of a haunting hour, which I think is pretty normal in horror movies, to set up some sort of timing thing. It was just in this particular instance, there was so much other and better material in the movie that didn't feel fully realized. And I had my only eye roll moment in this movie was they are back in Ed and Lorraine's house, and Lorraine is doing all of this research, and she's telling Ed about all of the different murders that had happened on the property and things. And then she says Bathsheba was the witch who hung herself, and she was pronounced dead at 3:07. And it's like, how did you know it was 3:07? This was 200 years ago. Did they call a coroner in? Was he just like, and she died at 3? Like, that's just a little too specific for me.
That's a good point. That's a bit of a plot hole, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead at 3:07. Yeah, what coroner's awake at that hour? They're like, call me in the morning.
who they're gonna go wake up? They're not gonna just be like, well, she's already dead. We'll take care of this tomorrow. We'll grab a cup of joe, come out, get her out of the tree. It's fine. And that was the only time where I was just like, ugh.
There was another. Well, I want to quickly mention, since we're on the 3:07, there was one part It's the night where Carolyn gets like locked in the cellar. She gets locked in the cellar because like she's woken up by like the clapping game, and she's like, "Kids, gonna go back to bed." And then she's kind of like lured down into the cellar, and then she gets locked down there with. I don't think it was Bathsheba that time. I think it was that Rory kid just like trying to mess with her or something. But when she wakes up and she's kind of like trying to follow where this clapping is coming from, so she can bust whatever kid she thinks is out of bed. The clock strikes 3 while she's walking around, and then like right after that is when all those portraits along the stairway like fly off. And there's actually like I just noticed for the first time in this watch through that there's a giggle while that's happening. And I'm like, I don't think Bathsheba's giggling. I think that it's this Rory kid that's just like, oh, I'm gonna destroy the house and. I'm a spirit, so you can't do anything to me.
Why would she throw the pictures off of the wall? Like, what would Rory as the child gain from that? Especially because the instances where we see interactions with Rory the child is through the daughter, who is actually being helped by Rory. He shows her the hiding space inside of the closet. He brings her the toy and sort of makes his presence known.
Yeah, and they do frame Bathsheba as being like, she says to Christine, Christine hears her voice in her head that like she wants her family dead. Bathsheba wants her family dead. And that very much matches up with, I'm going to throw all the portraits of you guys off the wall and destroy them. So there is that, but the giggle is what gets me, because you hear Bathsheba talk through Carolyn later, and it's like that voice is not giggling. It's not like it's the way that the laugh happens. And also later on, like after that happens, she then gets lured into the cellar, and there's the clapping. And I think that's, since it's the kid's game, I think it makes sense that Rory is the one trying to participate in this game. But also it's the voice she hears right before her match goes out when she's locked in the cellar is like, I'll play the clapping game. And it's a child's voice. So I don't know if it was both of them. Like Bathsheba's like, I'm going to take it. Maybe Bathsheba's, maybe she's framing Rory for it. I don't know.
Actually, I would argue that it is Bathsheba. And I would say the precedence for that is set at the beginning of the film when it shows the Annabelle doll, and the girls are saying that there was a young girl named Annabelle Higgins who had died, and she wanted to live with them, so she was going to inhabit the doll. And Ed and Lorraine were like, no. Listen here.
That's a really great parallel. You know what? You've convinced me. Why else would they put that in the movie? It's kind of buried in there, but it makes sense.
It's sort of a foreshadow of what Rory does, or it sort of clouds what is Rory and what is not. Because at that point in the movie, the first time you're watching it, Rory seems like the bad guy. We've only seen him. It's not really until after that scene that we learn about Bathsheba. Once Ed and Lorraine come to the house and they see the feet hanging from the tree.
Except for when Bathsheba is on top of the wardrobe and then jumps onto Andrea. Yeah, that's definitely like the jump scare of the movie, but it's like this in these demon possession movies, usually they don't really reveal what the spirit looks like until the end.
Yeah, way late.
And it's like right smack dab in the middle of the movie, and it's like, here's a full body shot of Bathsheba. And I don't know if it was for the shock value. And all things considered, Bathsheba's not that creepy looking.
It seems a little out of place to me to have that happen, but it also happens so fast that when it's the first time that you're viewing the movie, I don't really necessarily think that you know exactly what it is. That's actually sort of the beauty of this movie is if you're really watching and really paying attention the first time, everything is laid out for you really, really well.
Right. And I found myself actually enjoying sitting there and like kind of analyzing the moments that didn't have ghosts in the shot, like the more relaxed moments, but still tense. I found myself enjoying those moments more than like, okay, well, here's Bathsheba. She's like messing with the Perones again. It's right. Just almost like researching and like analyzing in a different way that was actually kind of more enjoyable than just waiting for something to jump out and scare me.
Yeah, I took the opportunity when I rewatched it just to reacquaint myself with it. I had been thinking about this idea of like color and color theory, and I messaged you about it and was like, this is something that I've been thinking about. And watching it again through that color theory lens, I think it's really brilliant. James Wan, the director of the movie, has this sort of trend in his movies of blocking out these really important colors. For example, Insidious, the blue of the spirit world is a very different color than the red, which is supposed to be demonic. And then you have just like the neutral earth tone of the human color. So whenever anything spiritual starts to happen, it's actually really noticeable in the film because there's a tonal shift that tells you, is it a spirit, a ghost spirit, or is it a demon? Because the tonal shift will either go a little bit bluer or it'll go a little bit redder. As well, I talked to you about the use of yellow and red in the movie. And you said that you saw a lot of white, and I'm going to fight you on this because I think that it was yellow. There's sort of like a sepia toned overlay. And when the Perron family are moving into the new house, every single one of the family are wearing yellow, except for the mom, who is wearing yellow and red. So if you look at the fabrics of their clothes, all of their clothes are pretty single toned. It's all this like yellow. Even the fabrics for a lot of them don't have a lot of like detail that might obscure that yellow color. And then they sort of wear yellow for a lot of the movie. But as the movie progresses and as they start encountering different infestations or oppression events, their clothes start to get dots of red. And the more and more that activity happens, actually, the more clothing you see that has been spotted with red. My example is when Ed and Lorraine first come to the house, all of the girls are in the living room, and almost all of the girls are wearing yellow still, but the yellow has like a red posy or something on it. And especially the youngest child, her dress is just covered in these red dots on top of the yellow because she's the one that's been most exposed to the demon. And whenever you see someone in red, you know that they're going to have some sort of paranormal event. For example, when the sheriff's deputy comes into the house, he's wearing a red coat over his yellow like work shirt. And he's the one that ends up getting attacked in the laundry room by the ghost. None of the others, like the guy who's working their electronics, he's just wearing yellow. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, you watched it, and then I think I watched it the day after, and we'd been texting about, and you said, look out for red and yellow, especially when people wear it. And it's just like, maybe I'm just not a fashionable person because I was looking out for it and I still missed all this stuff. I did notice when they first got to the house, I did notice that Carolyn, the mom, was wearing red, and then she later that day she like was wearing a solid red sweater. I was like, all right, here we go. This is the stuff Matt was talking about. And then I didn't really notice any yellow stuff. I don't know, maybe it was the device I was watching on or something. I made the yellow more pale or something. I didn't really notice. Maybe I was just looking for like really bright yellow. I don't know.
Yeah, but, and it wasn't a bright yellow. It was like the wallpaper of most of the rooms was like yellow hued, and it could have been white wallpaper that had just yellowed over time from age. Because everything, especially at the beginning, has this sort of sepia look to it, that quality that tells you that this movie takes place in the 70s and not in the modern era.
I was just about to say that. Well, that was just the 70s. Everything was more yellow then, right? I wouldn't know.
The thing about that, though, is I think that is another layer in itself, because I saw all of that yellow, especially in the house, which was so yellow, versus the Warrens' house, which was much warmer colored. The Perron family's house was this yellow, and it sort of is this like rancid quality. When Bathsheba takes over Carolyn, the mother, her eyes turn yellow.
I agree. I mean, now that you've pointed out some of those things, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I was looking at the time, and clearly red is often used for warning, and in demonic possession movies, it's like red is bad. Red is the color of the devil, and so there's that connotation to it. And I'll just kind of go through some of like the red things I noticed that are less obvious. Carolyn's bruises that she develops, and her husband's like, hey, go see a doctor about those. The bruises, as far as bruises go, are abnormally red in like the middle of them. And normally bruises you think like black and blue. And these are like very red looking bruises. So I thought that was interesting. And then the blindfold that they use when they play hide and clap, was read.
Yeah, because I think that is important when they're doing the hide and clap when the mom actually is playing with April. And she goes up to the cabinet because that's where she thinks she is. And then the daughter's like, "What are you doing? I'm over here."
Okay, I also want to mention the child actors. Like this is a great movie, like we said. And what's great about it is that there are believable child actors. And in a horror movie, that's like a huge deal. He's just like, eye roll. This kid said another like cheesy line that no kid would ever say. And they're all really believable, especially like the teenage daughters and except for April.
Except for April.
In that scene, it's like the delivery of those lines, like after the mom takes the blindfold off, she's like, "Ha, you didn't get me, the game's over because you took the blindfold off." And that's how she talks. It's literally like boom, boom, boom. There's no punctuation in those lines.
Right. Because Christine, the other daughter, is like fantastic.
Oh, she's great.
Scene where she's just sobbing on the bed, it's just like, man, this is some good child acting. I mean, all of the actors in this movie were really good. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson leading the movie, I think, were just spectacular.
Officer Brad Hamilton, probably one of my favorite characters, just because he provides some comedic relief in some parts. Like
he plays the skeptic,
right? And he does encounter that spirit, the maid or whatever it is, and then he's like, "Oh, like this stuff's real," and you can just see like his. Yeah, like the skeptic. And I just like seeing that kind of switch to like, oh, all right.
All right, Zach, I have a question for you.
Sure.
All right, first of all, do you believe in demons?
Oh, boy. Do I believe in demons? Well, okay, so we're going to have to go down a rabbit hole then, because if I don't believe in demons, then I don't believe in hell.
What?
Right.
It's a logical leap, I suppose. I just have a follow-up question for if you do.
Okay. Let me not go down the rabbit hole then. So no, I don't believe in demons in real life.
But for the hypothetical situation, let's say that demons are real. Val, your wife has been possessed by a demon. Who do you call?
Who do I call?
Yes.
Well, Lorraine Warren's still alive, so I'd probably call her.
All right. Okay. I'm offended you didn't say me, but that's totally fine.
I mean, she's like the leading expert that is alive right now.
No, it's cool. I get it. It's fine. It's cool. It's whatever.
I mean, so let me ask you a question now. What are you going to do about it?
I would put on Madonna's Vogue music video, and I think it would sort itself. You can't stop that.
You wanted me to ask you that, didn't you?
No,
I didn't set up your own joke.
I didn't plan for that at all.
While we're like kind of on a random tangent here, I want to bring up a really great plot hole that I noticed. So it was like they didn't even know the cellar was there when they bought the house, right?
Right.
Because the girls were playing their hide and clap game, and the one girl, it was Nancy's fault. It was Nancy. She like hides in that closet that leads down to the cellar, and then they like knock the wall out or something, and then they notice that's boarded off. And then Roger like goes down there and he's like, "Oh, there's all this extra square footage," and like and at the end of that, when he's talking to Caroline about it, he's like, "Well, I'll have to check out that furnace tomorrow, see if that works."
Right, exactly. I was going to say that same thing.
Did you not know this house had a furnace? Like when you buy a house, especially in the 70s, you're like, furnaces were like, "Oh, that was a furnace. That's great,"
Right.
It's like
you are looking for the furnace.
As a homeowner, that really bothered me. It's like you buy a house with a furnace. That's what you do, and you didn't know where it was.
How is that not one of the real estate like agents' main selling points? Just like it's got an open floor plan, and also there is a wide basement. We don't know how to get down, but we know that it's there.
Demon witch tree in the back.
Demon witch tree in the back. Beachfront
built-in
property.
Wardrobe in one of the bedrooms. It has a hole that leads into the wall, but that's extra square footage. Creaky floorboards.
Obviously, you're not going to notice the hole in the wardrobe when you put all of your goddamn clothes in there. It was empty. The wardrobe was empty before they moved in, and they put clothes in it. How did they not notice?
Also, really loose drywall that you can just rip portraits out of.
And they have like the dock at the back of their house. It's like, how I thought that was actually going to come into play more than it did.
It was really just when Lorraine saw, she had like that vision of Judy, her daughter, floating past. That was right after they found Rory's little hideout spot behind the wardrobe, and Lorraine was back there messing with the music box and whatever, and then she fell through the floor, and then she fell into the cellar where she saw.
Mm-hmm. She found the
spirit of Rory's mother. And Rory's mother, of course, was like, it's kind of like the cautionary tale. Mm-hmm. Like this is what the history of the house has been. Where Bathsheba possessed his mother, she killed Rory, and then she hung herself in guilt. Mm-hmm. At least that's how I interpreted it.
You know, Rory's mom in this movie was actually the inspiration for Taylor Swift's song "Look What You Made Me Do."
Well, that's also what the maid says too. She goes, "Look what she made me do." And that's I will admit I thought of that. It kind of popped into my head when she said, "Look what she made me do." So two connections to be made here, because after that happens, then Lorraine kind of like is running back upstairs because she's freaking out because the hanging spirit is like weirdly following her through the basement. And then there's that whole thing with her locket where her locket gets like caught. Yeah, and then she like gets it like ripped off and she's like choking. And then Bathsheba has her locket, which has a picture of her daughter in it. And then right after that, she's going out on that dock and she sees Judy like kind of float by. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, this Powers, because she didn't know that Lorraine had a daughter. She didn't know what her daughter looked like. And then she's able to produce this image to Lorraine.
Well, more than that, too. She's able to like contact Judy because...
Yeah, she like teleports to the locket.
Yeah. Yeah, the locket geolocates where Judy lives and where their house is. Because then she takes the Annabelle doll and she's in the rocking chair with the Annabelle doll. Mm-hmm. And you gotta wonder, was the demon in the Annabelle doll just absolutely pissed about that?
Yeah, that would be kind of as a demon in a doll. It's like, what you doing with me, other demon? Like, are we friends? Were we friends now? Like,
do I have to clock in with Satan about this? Like, does this go in my time? Is this overtime? Am I hourly? That's actually why he doesn't do anything. Is because he's just like, I'm on vacation.
I have this good thing going on in this glass case here. Could you not? But I do have. All right, and this is just for our audience here. This is not necessarily something I'm going to do every episode. It just happens to be, it's nice to know some fun facts about the movie, so that's what I'm doing here. And I'm going to call this one Demonstrating Your Knowledge.
Good one.
It's not a good one, but...
What? I like it. That's a good pun.
Okay. The ratio of effort to payoff is questionable. So we're just going to jump in and ignore it. So the first one, we already talked about this, but the movie opens with based on the true story. And of course, with a true story, there are multiple accounts of what happened. There are multiple people involved. Whose accounts did they use for this? Who did they talk to when writing for this movie?
Did they talk to Lorraine Warren? I believe that Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson like stayed with her.
They did. She also spent time on set, but there is also another person. Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so Andrea Perron, the
really?
eldest daughter, was also consulted quite a bit, actually. She wrote books. She has 3 books called House of Darkness, House of Light, and where she tells her story of it. Mm-hmm. And she is by far the most vocal of any of the children to like media and all that stuff. Like you can see interviews.
The veracity of the whole thing.
Yeah. And she has a very interesting perspective on it. She kind of frames it. I mean, I haven't read the books, but I do plan to. But from what I've seen, like from interviews with her, she considers the house more to be of like a portal between dimensions and time rather than being haunted. Because she said that she saw one time, I don't know if it was her or one of her sisters, saw a spirit that looked just like her, but in like 1700s garb. It was almost like an alternate dimension almost.
See, whenever I see a ghost, or the few times that I've seen ghosts, they always look like Mary Todd Lincoln. So I can buy this.
I mean, they've been dead for a while, so
yeah.
I thought it was interesting, and go read her book. It's probably okay. It's very long. I looked at it. I was like, oh, I'll get this on my Kindle, and it's like 600 pages. volume 1 is 600 pages or something like that. And there's 3 volumes to it. So
a light weekend read.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know everything, I think maybe that's the place to go. Lorraine Warren also wrote a lot of books, but the one that kind of focuses on the events of this movie and the Perron family is, I believe it's called The Haunted. Look it up, read it if you're interested. I know I will be doing that, and I probably should have done it before doing this episode, but whatever. Next question. So obviously it's Bathsheba, and obviously the Perron family actually dealt with Bathsheba. Do you know how many other malicious spirits the real Perron family encountered?
I don't. I'm going to guess 3.
Just one other one, actually.
Oh, just one other one?
At least that I was able to find information about. This is all within the scope of, like, this is what I was able to find things about without reading Andrea Perron's book. So they apparently encountered a lot of indifferent or even benevolent spirits, like Rory in the movie actually was based on a real spirit that April, the youngest, hung out with, and the spirit's actual name was Oliver. And it's the only inaccuracy from the movie is that April never told the Warrens about Oliver because she was friends with him and she didn't want them to make him go away. So that's what they were there to do with Bathsheba.
That makes sense.
She never told him about him.
Just like, a child's friend.
Yeah, it's my ghost friend. I want to stick around. This is Oliver. And yeah, that's also like, why didn't they keep Oliver? That's a much more realistic, like, old-timey ghost name. And then Rory. It's like Rory, like, that's a ghost from the 70s.
Maybe they knew that Oliver was a real person, and so to avoid having to deal with familial relationships or fallout from that, they just made up a new name.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, there was one other malicious spirit that Andrea Perron talked about in interviews, and she did not talk about it that much. In fact, in interviews, she seems to be kind of like skirts around it, and seems like Bathsheba actually wasn't the worst spirit that they really dealt with, considering that she's not really willing to even talk much about it. But I could be wrong. I could be reading into it more than I should. Next question. Oh, this isn't a question. These are just facts. So, next fact. It's like I meant to form it into a question. I was like, that one's not that exciting. I'm just going to move on to the next one. This one actually is a good fact. The exorcism they have in the movie, in reality, they didn't have an exorcism. They didn't exorcise Carolyn Perron. They actually had a seance to contact Bathsheba and be like, hey, get out of here. Let's release you and to try to get her out of the house and have the Perrons live in their house in peace, because that was, they could not move out of the house. They wanted to when they had issues with Bathsheba, but financial issues. So they couldn't do that. And Andrea Perron states that the seance that they had was actually much scarier than the exorcism that they had in the movie, which kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, like what happened?
Well, she said that it wasn't like a possession. Her mom wasn't possessed by Bathsheba. It was like her mom was attacked. And the Warrens, there seemed to be, from what I saw, dissonance between what Andrea Perron says happened for the seance and what the Warrens say happened in the seance, because Andrea was like, yeah, like this spirit, like, the reason it's called The Conjuring is because she describes it as that Warrens conjured up the spirit of Bathsheba, and she started attacking Carolyn Perron. And so she's being attacked, and then the Warrens at the time, they're like, she's possessed. We have to do something about it. And basically at that point, Roger Perron decided, you know what, with the Warrens here, the spirits seem to be more agitated than anything else. It doesn't really feel like they're helping. It seems like they're just kind of stirring up the pot. So let's get the Warrens out of here. And that's basically how it ended. There wasn't this happy, like, oh, Bathsheba's gone and whatever.
She's gone.
Yeah, that's just not how it works in reality. So in reality, they said, get out of here, Warrens. And they stayed there for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they actually, like, the girls and Carolyn, who's still alive, like, have pretty fond memories of the house. In fact, some of them were like, yeah, we'd move back there. Like, it feels like home. Whenever we've visited there again, it feels like home. And they just kind of like learned to live with the weirdness, I guess.
They would come home. They would say hi to all the spirits. They would go and do their homework. And if they needed help with their trigonometry, one of the spirits would pop in, scribble on the walls in red crayon.
Red crayon.
Help them out.
Suddenly, Annabelle makes an appearance.
They have the Annabelle doll, but instead she's doing Goodwill Hunting level mathematics on the wall.
I think the Ghost of Bride
Annabelle
more
demon just
helpful with
solved
like
quantum
history.
entanglement.
We need to harness this demon's power so it becomes like a Marvel movie. Annabelle 2, the Quantum Realm.
There's already an Annabelle 2. This is Annabelle 7.
We'll give it like the Lion King treatment. Annabelle 1.5.
Annabelle 1.5. She has a brief tenure at Oxford.
All the stuff you didn't need to know.
We didn't want to tell you this part of the movie because it really sheds Annabelle in like a positive light. She went to Oxford. She got a degree in mathematics.
She's actually the one that invented penicillin.
He married her childhood sweetheart. And then you have Annabelle X gets sent into space.
And it's just the doll? Or is this the kid that died?
Oh no, that's a Jason. Oh no, that's a Jason X
alternate
reference.
reality. Oh.
This is another horror movie reference, Zach.
Oh boy. You know I don't get those. He says on his horror movie podcast. Okay, on to the next question. Okay, so a little bit of history here. Bathsheba and Judson Sherman were Judson Sherman was Bathsheba's husband, and Bathsheba married him, and they had a child together. In the events of the movie, they had this kid together. She kills it 7 days later, like you said, sacrifices it to the devil, and it's kind of like it for her. She then goes and hangs herself. In reality, what do you think happened? Well, let me just leave it open-ended like that.
Okay, so in my version of this event, I would say Bathsheba sacrifices the child, goes in, makes a nice cup of tea.
You don't have to write the next movie, Matt.
This is comedy. This is what I want to do. I mean, her husband's name was Judson. How could you not go crazy?
Judson Sherman.
Yeah.
You know what their son's name was?
No.
Herbert Sherman.
They had a...
It's the worst name.
Herbert
It's like,
Sherman.
We get it. You're white. So I'll put you out of your misery
Judson
here.
And Herbert.
Judson, Bathsheba, and Herbert
Sherman.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, like Bathsheba and Judson, I feel like are like names of the time.
It sounds like this was a Protestant family that opened a book to the first names they could find.
They're terrible names, but in reality, we don't know exactly what happened because it all happened so long ago. But there are several sources, and there are rumors and all that stuff, and so. From that, I've tried to glean what I can. And basically, Bathsheba didn't hang herself. She actually, from the most reputable account that I could see, she died 4 years after her husband, and just of natural causes at an old age.
Ooh.
She just died. She didn't hang herself.
Ooh.
And I think that maybe she was involved in a little bit of shadiness, maybe not witchcraft, but I'm not sure that she sacrificed her firstborn child. But they did have this kind of strange, like it's hard to find how many children they had and who those children grew up to be. It's very kind of strange to try to find that information because there are some sources that are like they had 4 kids and none of them lived. And then there's some, they had 1 kid. They had Herbert Sherman and he grew up to be an adult and lived a normal life and all that stuff. So there's the whole gamut of different accounts, I guess. But I think that from all of it, if you take it all as one, they had Herbert Sherman, who lived a full life, but she's also, I think they said the 1 kid, but there's also this case where she was involved in the death of one of her neighbor's kids, which I think might be, if there's any reality to her being involved in witchcraft and sacrificial stuff, that is probably what was going on.
Yeah, the neighbor's kids.
And there's like no details on it, of course, but I think from like the context of it sounds like that was kind of fishy. And then there are some sources that say she died, like when she died in old age, she died from a strange form of paralysis that made her body look as if it had turned to stone. She
had rigor mortis when she died?
But she wasn't dead yet.
Great. How do they know? Tell me that.
How do they know? It was like 1780 or whatever.
She had demons in her blood.
So I don't know. And that's another thing. It's like, that could have been rigor mortis. That's what at first I was like, like how people get stiff when they die.
Yeah.
So That's
got bit by some sort of poisonous arachnid.
If you're going to go with the numbers that they had in the movie, though, so the movie says, what was it? The movie says Bathsheba Sherman, she was born Bathsheba Thayer, was born in 1812. So 1812. 51 years later, in 1863, is when she gave birth to the child she sacrificed.
Wow.
She was 51 when she had this child in the events of the movie.
Yeah, in the 19th century too. That's
right.
That's old to have a child in the 19th century.
I found that, and I was like I was looking at this, and I was talking to Val, my wife, and I said, "That's kind of a weird thing." And Val goes, "Well, she was a witch."
Exactly.
Like, all right, now I got to put that in.
Yeah.
And those are really the only questions I have.
Yeah. All right, Zach. So here's what you got to do now. Your demon/witch name is your favorite method of cleaning, your personal pronouns, and your favorite farm animal sound. So Bathsheba, mine is shower hemu. So what's yours?
Wait, say that again. What's this? I gotta write this down.
Okay, so your demon name is your favorite method of cleaning.
All right. And then your pronoun.
Your pronouns, and then your favorite farm animal sounds.
Okay. So
mine is shower hemu.
That's a good one. I probably would have said the same thing, but now I feel like I gotta pick a different. Shower yoink. It's like yoink, but yoink. Oh gosh. And then what's Sherman? Sure, man.
Sure, man.
Get into that. Sure, man. Anything else?
I think we've exhausted our.
Any other great jokes you got there, man?
No, I got the ones in that I wanted, which were the Madonna's Vogue joke, the Taylor Swift, and the Bathsheba demon name joke. So
I got something.
Okay, go ahead.
This would be like the diabetes film. The last.
Oh, no.
Oh, this isn't nearly as good. Oh, we didn't mention Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley passed away
right after we recorded
our first episode. It was a sign. It was his time to go.
It was 2 days after, right?
I will now carry on his legacy as a successful and intelligent actor.
Slash farmhand. Slash scientist.
In this economy?
Point. That's funny but sad.
Yeah. All right. What's your last fact?
Oh, right. So right before, I was kind of like just putzing around looking at Conjuring facts, and I found this article that says Norma Sutcliffe says she does not believe that ghosts or spirits haunt her house. She's the current owner of the Arnold estate, which is the real life property that The Conjuring takes place on. That's where the Perones lived. So she does not believe that the ghosts or spirits haunt her house, but the people trespassing on her property, bothering her neighbors, has made her life a nightmare since The Conjuring hit the big screen. So just wanted to mention.
To be expected.
I'm sorry, Norma Sutcliffe. She's being haunted by a different kind.
Oh, that poor woman.
Yeah. So, and now that I've spoken her name on our podcast, I've condemned her to death.
No!
It happened to Wilford Brimley. I hope not. I hope she's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well,
the article's from 2017, so who knows?
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for episode 2 of Watch No Evil. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
And we'll catch you in the next one.